3 promoted clubs go straight back down is bad. Having that happen 2 seasons on the bounce is a disaster. But having that happen 3 seasons in a row, that is something which proves the Premier League is broken. That cannot happen. In this video, I'm going to see whether that is likely to happen or not next season, and if it does, throw this league in a bin, and I'm gonna tell you which team I am desperate to see promoted as the 3rd side in the playoffs to keep next season interesting. Because if the 3 of you come up, go back down without a fuss, then it's official. The Premier League relegation battle has been cancelled forever. Look, Burnley are freaks. Okay, no, don't worry. Okay, I'm not talking about the townspeople. Although I would imagine being born in that town, you've probably got at least 65% chance of having your umbilical cord cut with a plastic fork in a McDonald's bathroom. I would hazard a guess that you're automatically in the running to become town mayor if you've still got all your teeth at 40. This is a place where Visa is probably the king. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, look, I'm being mean. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure the people of Burnley are lovely folk, and I could well have got all this wrong. I've never been to Burnley. I would just assume that going there for a midnight stroll would kind of feel like you're in the sequel to I Am Legend. Lads, this is Scott Parker's 3rd promotion to the Premier League. I mean, that sounds like a cool achievement, but okay, tell me a good memory you have of him in the top flight as a manager. Just one. I mean, well, I guess he helped Fulham win at Anfield when there were no fans in the crowd. But again, we should probably not dwell on this man coaching at Anfield for much longer. Other than that, I guess Parker just had a handsome haircut and enjoyed wearing clothes on the telly that were clearly knitted by his nan. Yeah, Parker has already proven he's a Premier League wimp. He took Fulham down without a fight and then gave up on Bournemouth after a 9-0 loss in August. A defeat so embarrassing, and now has his own Wikipedia page. That is the caliber of coach we are welcoming back into the Premier League. Someone who has since lost his job after 3 months in Belgium. I suppose the last time Burnley came up, they had one of the most exciting young bosses in the world at the wheel. Someone who was now on the cusp of a Bundesliga title with Bayern Munich. And even he still wasn't enough to keep this club competitive in the Prem. And so Parker is so many levels below Company, it's ridiculous. Company played a swashbuckling, luxurious style of football in the Championship, as Burnley trounced everyone for fun. Parker, so far, has overseen 12 0-0 draws. Christ him up between September and November. 50% of Burnley's 8 matches were 0-0s. I'm guessing they're about as much fun to watch as fat plumbers scratching their bellies whilst covered in hot dog crumbs. I would probably sooner spend 6 hours a day just mindlessly staring at the spotty staff in Craig's before accepting a season ticket to watch Parker ball. And so now we're all going to be inflicted with this grim safety-first approach in the Prem. How can a football club be this boring when you've literally got Ronaldinho's son in your camp? Yeah, seriously, 20-year-old João Mendes is buried in the Burnley reserves after joining from Barcelona last summer. And now we've got his world-class dad wearing a Burnley shirt. I thought it was weird enough when Blackburn tried to sign him. I mean, can you imagine his dad sitting in the stands at Turf Moor watching this utter gruel? You'd probably sooner watch cows do sloppy poos in a field. Lads, I have seen Burnley promoted 5 times now. When was the last time they instantly surprised me in their first season back? Well, they came up in 2009, were relegated in 2010. I mean, my most vivid memory of them that year is having their boss stolen by Bolton and soon found themselves 3-0 down home to Man City after just 7 minutes. It was 5 at half time. They came up in 2014, relegated in 2015, and it was the most boring relegation of all time. 3 consecutive 0-0 draws in September to suck all the fun out of being back in the Prem. In 17 of their league games, there was only 1 goal or less. Getting relegated with 4 1-0 defeats in a row is honestly about as tedious as counting the freckles on a ginger's face. They came up in 2016, finished 16th, and it was more boring football with 0 highlights for the DVT. And they came up again in 2023 and were flattened for fun, never escaping the relegation zone for even a week. Ouch. In fact, the last time Burnley were even higher than 16th in the Premier League table was 75 Premier League matches ago in August 2021. I mean, the last time they spent a week in the top half of the Prem was in July 2020, when both they and Sheffield United finished the season with just 2 points less than Arteta's Arsenal. When both Burnley and Sheffield United finished with 5 more points than Carlo Ancelotti. You see how long ago that feels? Of course it is. That's the summer I gave up on toilet paper and started using the curtains instead. Burnley under Parker are going to be like Burnley under Dyche in 2014 when they were ugly and failed. Okay, maybe this is just Burnley's identity, because I will admit that I love Company, the manager, but seeing him try to do that fancy Man City ball at Turf Moor, that was weird. I'd be like if he'd slapped eyeshadow on a pig. I'd be like if you gave Wayne Rooney a facelift and a tummy tuck. Seeing Burnley trying to be beautiful was like watching a creepy episode of Ugly Betty. So maybe Parker Ball is what this club wants. Meh? And it certainly doesn't mean I have to be excited about welcoming them back into the Prem. Look, okay, this feels like I'm hating on Scott Parker, that I've always had an irrational dislike of the man. That is untrue. No, lads, look, I've had this shirt for 20 years. Look whose name is on the back. That says Parker, I promise. I thought he was a rip-roaring captain, a mini Roy Keane, and I was gutted when he was sold to West Ham. But again, his last Premier League match as a manager was a 9-0 defeat. If you lose a Premier League match by 9 goals, you have officially cancelled your status of ever laying claim to being a good manager. I mean, surprise, surprise, Alf Hasenhüttl is on the verge of the Wolfsburg sack. So who else is coming up? Oh yes, Leeds. I know my beef with Leeds ultimately ended badly for me, but seeing them promoted again after so long out of the Premier League, it was initially exciting. I hadn't seen Leeds in the top flight since I was a kid, so this is a bit like if I was told that the bloke who played Barney the dinosaur was coming around my house for dinner. In theory, it sounds exciting to be reunited with a childhood memory, but then you realise that the bloke underneath the suit is actually a sweaty bald creep who picks his nose, slurps his soup, and asks to sniff your sister's socks. Yeah, that was Leeds once the Bielsa magic had worn off and they were getting relegated with a broken Big Sam at the wheel. That was our lasting memory of the great Leeds United in the Prem, being desperately coached by someone who's more out of date than that yogurt that nobody's bothered to clear out of your dead grand's fridge. Leeds United in their last ever Premier League season were super embarrassing, putting even less points on the board than they'd managed after selling all their best players in 2004. So seeing them back in the top flight now, look, I might be a little more enthused if they didn't have a Premier League relegation magnet at the wheel. When Daniel Farke was sacked as Norwich boss in December 2021, when he was on course to get the Canaries relegated again, I never ever thought we would see this plump German pirate on Match of the Day ever again. He brought Norwich up as champions twice before instantly crumbling like a burnt egg McMuffin. Yeah, his first game as Leeds boss next season will be his 50th match in the Premier League. He's only won 6 of those, so we know Leeds United entering the division with him at the wheel is not going to end well. At the very least, you're going to have to sack him. We know this man is not good enough for this league, so why are we accepting him back? This promotion feels like yet another waste of time. Lads, the best thing about the championship is when we see teams get promoted who we've never seen in the Premier League before, or at least not for a very long time. Over the last 20 years, these are the refreshing teams I have truly been excited to see come up. Wigan in 2005, Reading in 2006, Hull City in 2008, Blackpool in 2010, Swansea in 2011, Cardiff in 2013, Huddersfield in 2017, Brentford in 2021, Nottingham Forest in 2022, and Luton in 2023. All those sides felt like a breath of fresh air. Right, so back in 2017, Huddersfield were only famous because they had the bald X-Men as a fan. I was so excited to see what they could do with their creepy mini Klopp clone. Absolutely same goes for Luton. I found it hilarious they were now in the Premier League when they had a ground no bigger than the Burger King car park. Well look, I was always bored incessantly by the yo-yo clubs. Nice problem coming up when I was a kid was cool. But seeing them come up again in 2008. And 2010, and then 2020. It was revoltingly dull. Lads, I've seen Norwich City promoted 5 times. They never learned their lesson. And now Sheffield United, if they come up, I might cry. This would be their 3rd promotion since 2019. And guess what? It's the same manager who has his fingerprints over the worst 2 seasons in the history of the club, finishing bottom twice. This is a club who've actually been rock bottom of the Premier League for 61 game weeks in a row. The last time they were up, they lost 8-0 at home. Chris Wilder has literally lost his last 7 Premier League matches as a boss. He's won just 6 of his last 54 matches as a Premier League boss. Please, he can't. He cannot get the Blades up through the playoffs. No! Please, no. We know they're just gonna come crashing back down. We desperately need a breath of fresh air in the league. We cannot have the 3 new managers being Daniel Farke, Scott Parker, and Chris Wilder. Never has there been 3 more underwhelming promoted managers than these relegation magnet weasels. We want to see new faces, up-and-coming coaches who can add something new. 2015 was the perfect pizza. Eddie Howe, Quique Sanchez-Flores, and Alex Neil. All of them unknown in Prem circles. But Farke, Parker, and Wilder, we know them. They are utter soggy butter. Even in 2019, Marcelo Bielsa, Slaven Bilic, and Scott Parker. That was an exciting trio. Bielsa, one of the greatest football brains in the world. Bilic had been in the Premier League before, but he had created an exciting West Ham team before that melted, and Parker was a promising unknown. But we know him now, and he's about as exciting as that mustard stain on your tie. Lads, with 2 games left of the season, there are 6 clubs who are in with a realistic shot of promotion. Sunderland would be fun. It's been 8 years since they were in the league. They've since become Netflix famous and being laughed at by the world. They have got a complete managerial unknown in Regis Labrie, and their fat cat Silver Spoon owner is only 27 years old and mates with Ousmane Dembele. So seeing them in the Premier League could potentially be exciting chaos. Middlesbrough could come up under Michael Carrick. I would be less excited by that. And then there's Millwall, also in with a fair chance. I'll be honest, I am scared of Millwall. Seeing them getting promoted to the shiny Premier League, I feel like it'd be a bit like inviting the Orcs over for a tea party. You can't start crying when someone eats the teddy bear. And the other two clubs in the playoff spots, well, first one is Coventry. I wouldn't say no to a Coventry promotion. I mean, as a club, the only thing that would make me wary is that their manager, Frank Lampard, he is not a breath of fresh air. It feels like he's only been a manager for 5 minutes, right? No, I'm about to burst your brain because, lads, Lampard is nearly a quarter of the way to 1,000 matches. He has nearly completed a quarter of a Steve Bruce career. He has taken charge of 104 Premier League games. He ain't some newbie rookie. We know exactly what he is. Give him a season in the Premier Coventry, and by this time next year, he will be more experienced as a Premier League manager than Carlo Ancelotti. Somebody who's actually won the thing? Lampard isn't new. We know exactly what we're getting. So that is why the club I want up is Bristol City. I asked for Nottingham Forest to get promoted in 2022. I asked for Luton Town to get promoted in 2023. I was granted both wishes off the football Santa. But now, I want Bristol City, a club who haven't been in the top flight of English football since 1980. Lads, I don't even know where Bristol is on the map. I have no clue. It could be south, north, east, west. That is how much of an irrelevance this club has been in football circles. I want them up. This screams of Hull in 2008, or Blackpool in 2010, or Huddersfield in 2017, or Luton in 2023. A tiny club who've come from nowhere to squeak into the Premier League. It would be so exciting because these clubs, they can either turn into Derby County 2.0 and become the worst ever Premier League team, or they can ride the wave of adrenaline and do a madness. Christ, of Hull in 2008 were third in November. Little Huddersfield stayed up after beating managerial legends like Rafa Benitez and Jose Mourinho. Blackpool did the double over Liverpool and did enough to stay up. I mean, Luton were a letdown, but they didn't exactly disgrace themselves. Not really. Bristol also have a complete unknown manager, 39-year-old Liam Manning, who worked as a coach at Ipswich, West Ham, New York City FC, and worked a miracle in his first management job, taking bottom place Lommel SK to third place in the Belgium second tier. He then sniffed around promotions to both MK Dons and Oxford United, and now he's knocking on the door of the Premier League in his first full season as Bristol City boss. This is somebody who's been credited for having developed Declan Rice. A complete unknown coach like Manning would excite me. I have never seen Bristol City a match of the day. They could be anything. That's who I want to come up. Come on, Bristol. I want them up because the thought of Sheffield United back in the Premier League is terrifyingly sad. They are so boringly predictable. It's Bristol City. That is who I want to get promoted. Please, for the sake of saving the Premier League, we need a wild card. We cannot have 3 promoted teams going down thrice in a row. That would be an absolute disaster. So, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. All right, let me know. Who do you want up? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.